There is a moment, somewhere between holding on and breaking down, when your hands grow tired of clinging to what's already drifting away. You tell yourself you're in control. You whisper that you can still steer this current, but the river doesn't listen. The river has never listened. It only moves. It only knows one direction, forward. You think you're drowning, but maybe it's not water that's pulling you under. Maybe it's the illusion of control, the need to fix, to plan, to predict every twist of the flow. You build walls around yourself and call them safety. But those walls are made of fear, and fear doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. Rumi once said, "Flow down and down in always widening rings of being." He wasn't talking about escape. He was describing surrender, that quiet art of falling into the arms of life without fighting it. You don't have to swim against the current. You just have to stop pretending you can own the river. The truth is, you were never meant to control the current. You were meant to trust it. Every moment you've called a detour was the river's secret turn toward home. Every loss that broke you was the current carving away your edges so that you could finally fit the shape of the flow. Close your eyes and feel it. That gentle pull inside you that's been asking you to stop fighting. That's life itself, whispering, "You don't have to try so hard." The universe doesn't need your struggle. It needs your openness. Let the river teach you its rhythm. When it slows, breathe. When it roars, breathe. When it disappears underground, breathe. You are not lost. You are being carried beneath the surface where the roots drink light. Control is just fear wearing a crown. It demands, plans, resists, and worries. But surrender is royal silence. It's the power that doesn't grasp, the strength that doesn't shout. It's the faith that the river knows the ocean better than you ever could. And maybe that's what peace really is. Not the end of motion, but the trust that no matter how wild the current becomes, it's always moving you toward home. So tonight, as you sit in the soft hum of your own heartbeat, let go. Not dramatically, not in a storm, just gently, like leaves releasing themselves to the wind. You'll see. The moment you stop clutching the shore, the river begins to sing. And if these words touched something in you, stay a little longer. There's more to remember, more to release. If the current of this video carried you somewhere inside yourself, leave a ripple, a like, a comment, a spark, so others may find the same river waiting for them too. You've spent your whole life trying to steer the current. Every decision, every plan, every what if was an attempt to build a dam strong enough to stop uncertainty from reaching you. But the more you tried to manage the flow, the more the river inside you grew restless. Because control isn't power. It's fear disguised as safety. It's a trembling hand gripping the edge of a cliff, believing that if it just holds tighter, it won't fall. Yet life is not meant to be clutched. It's meant to be entered, to be lived, not arranged. The truth is that most people don't fear failure, they fear surrender. Because surrender feels like death to the ego, that fragile voice that whispers, "I must make it happen." You've been told all your life that you must fight for everything, push harder, plan more, but in the end, what you're really fighting is life itself. You stand in the middle of the river and demand that the water stop. You call it ambition. You call it discipline. But the river just laughs, and the laughter sounds like thunder. There comes a moment when the storm inside you grows louder than your thoughts. You realize you're exhausted from rowing. You're tired of maps, tired of controlling what was never yours to control. And that's when the current begins to shift. not because it changes direction, but because you finally stop resisting it. Rumi once said, "Why do you stay in prison when the door is so wide open? You've built your prison out of expectations, out of timelines, goals, and fears of what people might think if you simply stopped struggling." The world worships control because it's terrified of surrender. It calls surrender weakness, but it's the highest form of strength. It's the courage to admit you don't know what comes next, and to still trust that it will be right. Imagine this: a single leaf trembling on the edge of a riverbank. The wind picks up. The leaf doesn't leap, it just loosens. It stops holding on, and suddenly, it's carried, effortlessly, gracefully. It dances over rocks, floats through light, becomes part of the water that once frightened it. That is the secret Rumi was pointing to. The divine rhythm doesn't punish you for letting go. It rewards you. It carries you home. So maybe peace isn't found in perfect plans, but in holy uncertainty, in that sacred pause between one breath and the next, where you realize you don't need to know what's coming, because something far wiser than you is already guiding it. The ocean doesn't question the river. The river doesn't question the rain. Only the mind questions the mystery, and only the soul can rest in it. So tonight, when the noise of your thoughts rises, remember this: you were never meant to conquer the current. You were meant to trust it enough to close your eyes, open your palms, and float. And if this moment feels like it's carrying you somewhere unfamiliar, that's good. That's how the river teaches you faith. The path to freedom was never made of control. It was always made of surrender. If these words stirred something in you, let the feeling move through you. Don't hold it. Let it flow. And if this current reached you, leave a ripple behind. A like, a word, a sign that you were here, so others can find their way to the water too. There comes a point when you realize that life was never asking you to be strong. It was asking you to be open. All your strength, all your control, all your endless planning, they were only armor. Heavy armor, rusted with fear. You wore it thinking it would protect you from chaos. But the truth is, it only protected you from peace. Because peace doesn't come when you win against life. Peace comes when you stop fighting it. It happens quietly, almost without your permission. You wake up one morning and you're too tired to struggle. Not defeated, just done. The river inside you is still moving, and for the first time, you stop trying to redirect it. You stop fighting every twist and turn, every unexpected bend. You stop asking, "Why this?" and start whispering, "Okay." That one word, "okay," becomes your prayer, your surrender, your freedom. You start to notice something miraculous. The river never needed your effort to move. It only needed your trust. When you let go, life doesn't fall apart. It falls into place. What you thought was drowning was actually the moment the water finally held you. The current that terrified you becomes the same current that carries you. Rumi said, "Try to be a sheet of paper with nothing on it. Be pure in yourself." That's what letting go feels like, becoming blank, empty. But this emptiness isn't despair. It's sacred space. It's the moment before dawn when everything is still and the light hasn't yet chosen where to fall. It's the moment you stop being the one who resists and start being the one who receives. When you finally let go, the noise begins to fade. The heart slows. The mind loosens its grip on what should have been, and you feel something ancient rise inside you. Silence. Not the silence of loneliness, but the silence that hums beneath everything, the silence that has always been there, waiting for you to stop running. That's when you understand what Rumi meant when he said, "Flow with whatever may happen, and let your mind be free. Stay centered by accepting whatever you are doing." The flow doesn't require effort. It requires trust. It's not about drifting without purpose. It's about remembering that the current already knows the destination. You begin to laugh at how much energy you spent trying to control what was never yours to command. Every delay, every detour, every loss. You see now that it was all the river, rearranging your path so you would finally meet yourself. You realize that you were never lost. You were being carried all along. And as this understanding sinks deeper, something inside you softens. You start to love the uncertainty. You start to welcome not knowing. You begin to see beauty in everything unplanned. Life stops feeling like a puzzle to be solved and starts feeling like a mystery to be lived. The current is no longer something to fear. It becomes your teacher, your companion, your home. If you felt this shift, if the current inside you began to move as you listened, don't rush away. Let it stay. Let it echo. And if it touched your heart, leave a small sign, a like, a word, a whisper, so that someone else searching for peace might follow it too. At first, you thought surrender meant losing yourself. You imagined it as fading away, as disappearance, as silence swallowing your voice. But now, as the river carries you deeper, you begin to understand. Surrender is not the end of you. It is the beginning of everything you truly are. When you stop clinging to the edges of life, something miraculous happens. The edges disappear. The division between you and life begins to blur. You stop being the one floating in the current and start realizing you are the current. You are not the traveler anymore. You are the flow itself. You are the song and the singer, the prayer and the answer, the river and the ocean meeting in one breath. The noise of control fades, and what remains is rhythm. Not silence, but pulse. The heartbeat of existence moving through you. The sound of your breathing becomes the sound of the river's tide. Each inhale is the world arriving. Each exhale is your surrender to it. There is a kind of peace that doesn't come with understanding, only with union. You can't think your way into it. You can't plan it, manifest it, or buy it. It's the kind of peace that arrives when you stop demanding explanations, when you stop trying to be the author of every moment and simply let the moment write itself through you. Rumi said, "When I am silent, I fall into the place where everything is music." This silence he spoke of is not emptiness, it's fullness beyond measure. It's the realization that you've been part of the song all along, not as an audience, but as a note. You never needed to conduct the symphony. You only needed to remember you were part of its sound. In this state, time loosens its grip. The past feels like a dream you've outgrown, and the future, just a mirage the mind used to chase. All that remains is now, vast and luminous, stretching endlessly like sunlight across still water. And in this now, there is no effort left, only being. You begin to see the beauty in uncertainty. The storm doesn't frighten you anymore. It mesmerizes you. You see that even the chaos is part of the same divine choreography. The current that once terrified you now moves like a dance you've always known, but had forgotten how to follow. You feel lighter, not because life has changed, but because your grip has. The tighter you hold, the heavier you become. But when you release, you float. The river doesn't punish those who let go. it carries them gently home. And so, you let it. You stop asking for guarantees. You stop measuring your worth by outcomes. You stop demanding answers from the mystery and instead bow to it. You begin to trust that every wave knows its way back to the ocean, even if it disappears for a while in the foam. That's the freedom Rumi spoke of, not escaping life, but merging with it so completely that fear has nowhere left to stand. If this part of the river carried you, don't just move on. Let yourself drift in its echo. Let the calm settle into your bones. And if this message found you at the right moment, leave a trace, a ripple, a comment, a small act of presence, so another traveler might recognize the way home. Something changes when you stop asking life to explain itself. The questions that once kept you awake at night begin to dissolve into quiet awe. The mind, once loud and demanding, starts to soften like sand after the tide retreats. What takes its place is not indifference, but joy. The simple, radiant joy of finally trusting the current that has always been carrying you. It's strange, isn't it? How the moment you stop fighting, everything begins to move in harmony. You start to notice the small miracles, the way the wind knows when to shift, the way the sunrise never needs a reminder to return, the way your own heart beats without needing your permission. You begin to understand that the same intelligence guiding the stars is the one that breathes through you. You were never separate. You were never abandoned. You were simply learning how to float, Rumi said. As you start to walk on the way appears. You used to wait for certainty before taking a step, but now you see that the path reveals itself only when your feet touch the water. That's the paradox of trust. You don't get the map until you begin the journey. And once you start walking, you realize the path was never outside you. It was unfolding beneath your surrender all along. Trust feels like breathing for the first time after holding your breath for years. It's the deep sigh that says, I don't need to control this anymore. It's the laugh that escapes your chest when you finally see how life was never punishing you. It was polishing you. Every loss, every delay, every heartbreak was the current reshaping you into something that could finally flow. The more you trust, the lighter you become. The mind loosens. The shoulders drop. Even time seems to slow down. You stop rushing because you realize you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. The river isn't late, and neither are you. In this peace, gratitude begins to bloom, not the kind you force, but the kind that rises naturally, like sunlight touching water. You start thanking life not just for the joy, but for the lessons that hurt. You begin to see that every moment, even the painful ones, were love in disguise. A love so vast, it needed to break you open so it could reach inside. You no longer need to beg for signs or answers. The river itself becomes the answer. Every breath becomes a prayer. Every tear becomes a baptism. You stop waiting for life to begin and realize it never stopped. And this is where real joy begins. Not the shallow joy of getting what you want, but the sacred joy of wanting nothing at all. The joy of being carried, of trusting the unseen, of knowing that whatever comes next will be right. This joy doesn't roar. It hums quietly beneath your ribs. It's the kind of joy that feels like home. If you felt even a drop of that peace while listening, let it stay with you. Don't rush to the next moment. Stay here. Let it breathe through you. And if this message reminded you of something you had forgotten, that life has never left you, leave a small ripple of gratitude below, so that someone else, somewhere, might find it and remember too. There comes a moment when trust becomes more than a choice. It becomes your nature. You no longer remind yourself to let go, because there is nothing left to hold. The you that once clung to the shore has already dissolved into the current. The hands that tried to control the flow have turned into water. You are not surrendering anymore. You are surrender. You are the movement, the stillness, and the space between them. At first, this dissolving feels strange. The mind wants to call it loss. It whispers, "If I let go completely, I'll disappear." And in a way, it's right. The one who was afraid, the one who worried, the one who believed life was something to win or manage, that one does disappear. But what takes its place is not emptiness. It's vastness. It's peace without borders. Rumi said, "When you let go of who you are, you become what you might be." These words are not philosophy. They are a map to freedom. To die to the false self is to awaken as life itself. The river doesn't lose the drop when it merges with the ocean. It becomes the ocean. The same water that once trembled in fear now moves with infinite grace. It realizes it was never alone. You start to see that the idea of you was just a temporary shape, a beautiful illusion painted on the surface of eternity. You were never the drop fighting for direction. You were always the current, pretending to be small. The mind cannot understand this because it can't exist here. The mind is built on separation, but the heart remembers. It always knew that love was not something you find, but something you already are. And as this realization deepens, everything you once chased loses its urgency. You stop striving to be seen, to be understood, to be enough. You understand now that you were never unseen, never misunderstood, never lacking. The universe has been seeing itself through your eyes since the beginning of time. You were not created to become something. You were created to remember that you already are everything. In this space, there are no questions left. There is no need to analyze, compare, or label. Thought becomes like mist, soft, harmless, drifting through the air without staying. You watch it pass, and behind it, you see the sky of your own being, infinite and clear. That is the real you, the open sky that holds every cloud without resistance. There is no loneliness here, because there is no separation left. The trees, the wind, the river, the stars, all breathe in the same rhythm. You feel them not as things around you, but as yourself. Every sound becomes sacred. Every silence becomes music. You finally understand what Rumi meant when he said, "We are not a drop in the ocean. We are the entire ocean in a drop." This is what it means to let go completely. Not to lose, but to merge. Not to end, but to return. If you've ever felt that quiet moment where the noise fades and you can hear life breathing through you, stay there. Don't label it. Don't grasp it. Just be it. That's the river remembering itself. And if these words reminded you of something ancient inside you, something that's always been waiting, let that remembrance flow outward. Leave a ripple, a small light, a sign that awakening is real. And it's happening here, in this very breath. There is a silence that comes after surrender. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of completion. It's the moment after a storm, when everything glows with rain. The wind has stopped fighting, the water has settled, and even the earth seems to breathe in gratitude. You sit in that stillness and realize nothing is missing. Nothing has ever been missing. This silence doesn't demand your attention. It doesn't shout or impress. It just is. It wraps around you like a gentle tide, soft and infinite. In this silence, you feel the hum of existence itself, not as something separate from you, but as your own heartbeat stretched across the stars. You begin to see that life was never something happening to you. Life was always happening as you. There's a deep kind of gratitude that rises here, one that doesn't come from getting what you want, but from seeing that you already have what you need. Gratitude that doesn't need language. It exists before thought, before prayer, before asking. It's the quiet knowing that everything, even the pain, even the loss, was part of the same sacred design. Rumi once wrote, "Be silent. Only the hand of God can remove the burdens of the heart." Now you understand what he meant. The hand of God is not something outside of you. It is the flow itself. It is the unseen grace that carried you through every fall, every ending, every unanswered question. You never had to find it. You only had to stop resisting it. In this stillness, your breath becomes a sacred rhythm. Each inhale feels like the universe entering you, and each exhale feels like your return to it. There is no border anymore. Not between you and the world. Not between you and God. There's only one vast movement, and you are both the dancer and the dance. You stop trying to feel spiritual. You stop trying to be enlightened. The search ends because the seeker dissolves. The one who looked for light finally realizes it was never separate from the source. You understand now. The light has always been within you, quietly burning behind the eyes, waiting for you to stop chasing reflections. It's here, in this profound stillness, that you feel love, not as emotion, but as essence. Love without object, love without direction, love that simply is. The same love that moves galaxies moves through your chest. The same love that carved rivers through mountains carved its way through your fears. And now it flows freely. There's nothing left to prove, nothing left to protect. You've become transparent, weightless, infinite. You're not trying to hold the river anymore. You've become the calm at its center. And in that peace, even death loses its shadow. You see that endings are just the river folding back into itself. There was never a need to fear them. They were always beginnings in disguise. If this silence has reached you, let it linger. Don't rush to fill it. Let it stretch and hum through you. Let it speak in ways words never could. And if this stillness brought you peace, share a whisper of it, a word, a light, a sign, so that someone else lost in the current might find the same quiet shore. There comes a moment when love stops being something you feel and becomes something you breathe. It moves through you the way air fills the lungs, effortlessly, constantly, without asking for permission. It's no longer a choice or an emotion. It's the very rhythm of your being. You wake up, and everything you see, every shadow, every glimmer of light, feels like an extension of that same endless love. You realize that love was never meant to be understood. It was meant to be lived. It's the pulse that moves the river, the reason the stars still burn, the hidden thread connecting every joy and every wound. You can't define it because you are it. Every attempt to name it only breaks it into pieces. So you stop naming, stop thinking, stop searching. And in that stillness, love begins to reveal itself in everything. You start to feel it in the smallest gestures. The wind brushing against your skin, the sound of distant laughter, the warmth of sunlight on your hands. You see it in the eyes of strangers, in the stillness of water, in the quiet between heartbeats. The world hasn't changed. Your sight has. You no longer see through fear. You see through love. Everything has become holy because you finally stopped dividing it. Rumi said, "Wherever you are, whatever you do, be in love." Now those words make sense. Love isn't something you fall into. It's the space you return to when everything else falls away. It's not about being attached to someone or something. It's about being available to everything. It's a kind of openness so vast it dissolves every wall. And when you live this way, you begin to understand God, not as a distant figure, but as the living presence inside this love. The divine was never hiding behind clouds or books or temples. It was hiding in the way your chest rises and falls, in the way your eyes soften when you see beauty, in the way your tears fall when your heart recognizes truth. God is not a name. God is the warmth that moves through you when you stop pretending to be separate. Every breath becomes a prayer, not the kind that begs or asks, but the kind that simply says, "Thank you." Gratitude becomes your language. You find yourself whispering it to everything, to the air, to your pain, to your past, to the silence itself. You don't know who you're thanking anymore, and it doesn't matter, because the one who gives thanks and the one who receives it have become the same. The deeper you breathe, the deeper the peace grows. You start to feel that love is not something that comes and goes. It doesn't depend on people, or time, or circumstance. It is the foundation beneath everything. Even loss, even death, even despair, all of it rests inside this vast love. The river carries all, and nothing is truly lost. And when you realize this, you begin to live differently. You stop taking from the world and start giving to it. You speak softly. You forgive easily. You listen more than you explain, because you understand now that love doesn't need to prove itself. It just needs to move. You've become a vessel, not full, but open. The divine breath moves through you like music through a hollow flute. You don't play the song. You are the song. You don't speak of God. You let God speak through you. You've become a prayer with no words, a flame with no name, a silence that burns with meaning. If this touched you, if something deep within you recognized itself in these words, let that be your prayer tonight. Breathe softly. Smile at the sky. Whisper your gratitude into the air, and if you feel that love stirring inside you, let it ripple outward. Leave a sign of it here, a single word, a heart, a small light, so that someone searching in darkness might see it and remember. Love was never gone. It was only waiting for you to breathe. At some point, even love itself dissolves into something larger. The current becomes so deep, so endless, that it no longer needs a name. You are no longer a person trying to love, or even a soul trying to awaken. You are the river itself, moving without effort, without direction, without edge. You've become the pulse of existence flowing through its own reflection. In this space, there are no opposites left, no heaven or hell, no good or bad, no me or you. Everything has merged into one living rhythm, soft, infinite, and silent. The trees, the air, the sound of distant waves, all of it is you. You can feel yourself breathing through every leaf, every tide, every heartbeat in the world. You are the wind that bends the grass, the silence between waves, the invisible music behind everything that exists. The river has no name because it never needed one. Names belong to what is separate. But here, There is no separation left to define. You have entered what Rumi called the nameless, formless beloved. The place where even light forgets to shine because everything already glows from within. The place where eternity folds into a single breath, and that breath is you. You remember the struggle, how you used to fight for control, for certainty, for direction. You remember how you feared the unknown. But now the unknown feels like home. The same darkness you once ran from now feels like the soft arms of God. You realize that surrender wasn't about losing yourself. It was about remembering who you've always been beneath the noise, the infinite stillness watching it all. Rumi once whispered, "Flow down and down into ever-widening rings of being." That's what's happening now. You are falling upward into the vastness, expanding without effort, disappearing into peace. There is no boundary between what breathes and what is breathed. No border between creation and creator, only flow. The river carries memories too, the faces you've loved, the lives you've lived, the moments you thought were lost, but they're not gone. They shimmer like gold dust beneath the surface, carried effortlessly toward the same sea. You realize that nothing truly ends. The current only changes form. The story only changes its words. You were never leaving anything behind. You were only returning again and again to the heart of it all. The more you let go, the lighter you become. You start to move like light through water, clear, quiet, unstoppable. Even pain now feels sacred, like ripples of energy, reminding you that you're still alive. You stop asking why. You stop searching for meaning. You simply live, and that living is the meaning. You understand now that enlightenment is not an achievement. It's a disappearance. The seeker melts into the sought. The prayer becomes the silence it once begged to hear. You don't find peace. You become it. You don't chase God. You wake up as the gaze through which God is seeing. In this deep unity, even time dissolves. Past and future fade like mist, and what remains is the pulse of this eternal now. You realize that you were never moving through life. Life was moving through you. The river was always flowing, and you were always the water. You never had to let go of the shore, because there was never a shore to begin with. If you've ever felt this, even for a moment, that timeless stillness, that wordless peace that feels like home, don't try to hold it. Let it hold you. Let it move through you like a quiet song that never ends. And if this journey touched you, let it ripple outward. Share it softly, not for recognition, but for remembrance, so that someone else, lost in the noise, might feel this same silence and whisper, "I'm home." There comes a final moment in every seeker's journey, the moment when the river meets the ocean. It doesn't crash or fight. It doesn't resist or grieve what it's leaving behind. It simply widens, softens, and disappears. The river becomes the ocean, and the ocean becomes the river. There's no longer a line where one ends and the other begins. That is what happens when the self dissolves. That is what happens when you finally let go. This is not death in the way the world understands it. This is returning. This is remembering. This is the point where the drop remembers that it was never separate from the sea. You realize that every prayer you've ever whispered, every tear you've ever shed, every breath you've ever taken, all of it was the ocean calling you back to itself. The pain, the longing, the silence, none of it was punishment. It was the invitation home. The ocean does not ask the river where it has been. It does not judge the mud it carried or the stones it broke against. It simply receives, completely, lovingly, without condition. And as you dissolve into it, you feel the last walls inside you melt. There are no borders left to defend, no names left to remember, no past left to explain. Only light, only depth, only love without end. This love is not something you feel, it's something you become. It fills you until there's no more you left to contain it. You realize that even your longing for peace was peace calling itself back. Even your search for God was God searching for you. There was never a separation, only a dream of forgetting. And now, the dream ends softly. You look back at your life, not with regret, but with tenderness. You see how every mistake, every heartbreak, every night of despair was part of a divine choreography, steps leading you toward this vast stillness. You were never lost. You were always being carried. Even when you thought you were drowning, you were being taught how to breathe underwater. Now, the ocean breathes you. The silence hums through you like a hymn older than time. The stars shimmer on your surface, and the moon pulls at your heart. The divine current flows through everything, not as something you follow, but as what you are. You have become the prayer, the answer, and the silence between them. And then, something miraculous happens. You realize the journey never truly ends. The ocean gives birth to clouds. The clouds become rain. The rain becomes rivers again. You will flow once more through new forms, new faces, new lives. You will forget, and you will remember again. Because love never stops moving. Love is the movement itself. So let this be your peace, to know that even in the letting go, you are held. Even in the silence, you are heard. Even in the dissolving, you are eternal. The ocean doesn't mourn the river. It celebrates its return. And now, you too have come home. If this touched you, if some quiet part of you felt seen or softened, let that be your offering. Whisper it into the current. Leave a word, a heart, a light in this flow, not for fame, but for the next soul searching for shore, so that they too may remember. The river was never alone. It was always the ocean, dreaming of return.